Welcome to Messed Up Mentors. This is Python for All, PY4A. In this video, we will look at Introduction to SQL with Python. SQL and Python are two most important languages to data analysts and data scientists. Because of the vast availability of libraries and open source nature of Python, it becomes important for data analysts to integrate SQL with Python. SQL stands for Structured Query Language. It is a specialized programming language used to communicate and manipulate data stored in relational databases. SQL is used to access and manage large amounts of information. Most commonly used relational database management systems RDBMS are Oracle, MySQL, Microsoft SQL Server, PostgreSQL, and IBM DB2. Each RDBMS uses a different variant of SQL such that SQL codes written for one might not work with another without minor modifications. It therefore implies that a good understanding of SQL is very important to work as a data analyst. I will be demonstrating with my SQL community server because it is free and also popularly used in the industry. To start with, I'm using JupyterLab on Ubuntu 22.04 on my local workstation. First, to connect your SQL server with Python, you will need MySQL connector Python, and also to do further processing of retrieve data from your database, you would need pandas. So if you don't have these two libraries, you simply use the command pip install mysql-connector-python space pandas to install both libraries. So I would open terminal on JupyterLab. Terminal is same thing as the command shell in Windows. Okay, so I'll do pip install MySQL connector Python space pandas. If we run this, you will see that it returns that I already have these libraries installed. So you see requirement already satisfied. Now, the next thing we will do is to update our applications and softwares on Ubuntu using sudo apt-get update. So I will enter sudo apt-get update. It asks for my root password and then updates applications and softwares and drivers on my local machine. Once it's done, then I do sudo apt get, which is apt-get install my SQL server to be able to use your local machine as a server and my SQL client so that you can also be able to use your local machine as a client to connect to other server. So quickly install sudo apt-get install my SQL server space MySQL clients. I already have this installed on my system, and so it shows that my SQL client and my SQL server are already installed on my system. So once you're done with that, you can now check the status of your server using sudo service MySQL status. And let's see the status of a server, sudo service MySQL status. So you can see that my server is operational. My server is operational, and then you can look up the memory and every other information. The SQL service is my SQL community server. So likewise, you can start the server with sudo service mysql start, and you can stop the server by using sudo mysql stop. The next we are going to do is to create a user. So to create a user, we have to first of all log in to the root user using MySQL dash u root and dash pp, and then you enter the password of your root. So I have my SQL root dash p to ask for your password. I already set my password, so enter the password, and we're right in the roots. So here we can show databases, and it shows you the database that we have. Likewise, you can use the command select user and host. Once you're on the root from my SQL dot user, always end it with a semicolon. And then you can see that I already have MCE, and I also already have roots. Now to create a new user, we have to pass in the command create user, then the username at localhost identified by password. These commands are case insensitive, so I can even do them in lowercase. Create user, I will call the user maxi at localhost identified by, and then pass in a password. This is my password. Your password shouldn't be exposed. I'm going to delete this user after this tutorial. And the end with a semicolon, you see it says queries. Let's check our user that we just created. What we need to do is to do user, passing this command, select user host from MySQL.user. Can you see the user? Maxi. It's already there as our user. So now we're done with this. You can check the status, and then you see. Now let's log out of when our root. Let's go out of roots. Backward slash q takes you out of the root, and then let's log into the user. Minus u. My user is Maxi minus p, and ask me for my password. Then I'm in my password. Let's show all grants to this user from the root. See, we eventually have not issued any grants to Max. So simply go back to our roots user and grants, and then simply pass in this command to grant permission to the new user we have created. So put grant all on to the user with grant option. So we can also put that in cap case, grant all on star asterisk, okay, to our user is Maxi at localhost, right? With grant option, ended with a semicolon, and you see it says everything is okay, right? Let's see the status. That's we're in our roots, so we can leave the roots right away. Log back to our user minus u. Our user is Maxi, and the password minus p, and we are in there. So let's show grants, and with a semicolon, it shows you all grants you have given to your user. The next thing we do, I haven't done all this. Fine, we have established, installed our server, established our user. Next, for us to import the required libraries, so import pandas, import mysql.connector. From mysql.connector, import error, and also import getPass from getPass. Next, we create a server connection. To do that, I'll write a function, and the function will be create server connection. It takes a host, a username, and should take a password. but I want the password embedded in the function so that the password is not exposed to the public. Okay, and so I've used getPass to be able to encrypt my password. The next, I'll have a try and accept statement. In the try statement, I'll create a connection by calling my SQL.connector.connect, passing the host name, the username, and the password that is entered as input when you run this function. And then it prints my database successfully connected. There's an error. The accept clause will catch that error and then print the details of that error. And also, I check if the connection is still open. If it's open, I should close that connection and then return connection. So I'll run this function, and next I will create my connection just to check. I have host name is localhost, username is Maxi, and if we run this, it prompts us for our password. You enter the password, and then it tells you MySQL database successfully connected, and your password is protected and not exposed to the public. The next, having now created a connection between with our server, what we'll do next is to create a database. Then I'll have a function create database that takes a connection as input and query. Right? If you look at my SQL, let's call SQL my SQL minus user. I have Maxi minus P, and to ask me for password. You see the cursor is blinking here. So to be able to read or add anything to this cursor has to be called. So here I call the cursor by calling connection.cursor. And then in the try and accept block, because I want to handle the error or exceptions gracefully. So I have cursor.execute. You could also have cursor.execute many. Okay, and then you pass in the query. It prints database successfully created. Yeah, there's an error, it prints error in database, giving details of that error. So if we run this function, we have it there. I can now then, first of all, create a variable that has a database query. Okay, 1 second. Let's call this variable database query. And then I want to pass in the SQL command that says create database. And what database do I want to create? I want to create the database component. And then we call the function create database, passing the connection that we already established here and passing the database query, okay, which is the variable here. If we run that, what happens? It tells us database successfully created. So we have successfully created database component in the user Maxi. And next is we try to make a database connection. So connect to our database. To do that, I have another function that says create database connection, DB connection, which is database connection, and I have a host name. It takes a username and it takes a database name. Now we already have a database component. You can add as many databases as you wish. So here I have user, likewise again trying to protect the password from being exposed, and I have my usual try and accept statement. In the try and accept statement, I call my connection, and this time around, I pass an additional input, which is the database name, and then print the database, MySQL database successfully created, printing the database name. And if there's an error, it tells me I have a connection, database connection error, database database connection error, database connection error with the details of the error. And again, I followed by an if statement. If the connection is open, it should be closed, and then prints connection closed. Okay, and then it returns finally connection. So if I run this function and let me verify what we have, fine. So I have a DB connection, create DB connection, host name is local, username is Maxi, DB name is company. If we run this function, it prompts us for password. I would enter my password and it says my SQL company database successfully created. With this, we have come to the end of this video. In the second part of the video, I will be showing how to apply the principle of CRUD. First, we'll connect to our already established user with this database component and then create data. retrieve data, update data, and also delete data from the database. Please like this video, share this video, subscribe to my YouTube channel if you're just watching my channel for the first time. And when you subscribe, always remember to click the notification bell beside to stay updated whenever I upload new videos. I will see you in my next video. Stay connected. Bye.